Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
It's Huluween on Disney+. Watch frightful family favorites like Hocus Pocus and Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas on Disney+.
I am the Pumpkin King!
Then take the terror to 10 with a thrilling new remake of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Scream, and more with Huluween on Disney+. All these and more streaming this Halloween season with Hulu on Disney+. Bundle subscription required. 18+. Select Hulu content via Disney+. Additional content on Hulu app. Terms apply. Visit disneyplus.com/Hulu for details.
This is True Spies, the podcast that takes you deep inside the greatest secret missions of all time. Week by week, you'll hear the true stories behind the operations that have shaped the world we live in. You'll meet the people who live life undercover. What do they know? What are their skills? And what would you do in their position? I'm Rhiannon Needs, and this is True Spies from SPYSCAPE Studios. Chasing Chi, Part 2. One Man's Trash.
We're not going to be able to bring charges yet, and we were getting a lot of pressure from headquarters, mostly Los Angeles, because of all the resources we were using. We didn't have a case yet to go to trial.
It's February 2005. Jim Gaylord, FBI Special Agent and case lead on the Chi Mak counter-espionage case, is running out of road. For the last year, his team have been gathering intelligence on Chi and his co-conspirators. Chi, his brother Tai, his sister-in-law Phuc, and his wife Rebecca have all been surveilled, tapped, and monitored within an inch of their lives. Jim knows that Chi Mak is gathering restricted information from his employers, naval defense contractors Power Paragon. He's seen the towers of documents, coated in dust, piled up in Chi Mak's home in Downey, California. But so far, he hasn't been able to provide the one thing that will nail the spy ring: evidence that those secrets are being sent to China. Nonetheless, in an abandoned lot, somewhere in Southern California, FBI and NCIS agents are diligently rifling through the Mak ring's trash, hoping against hope for some sliver of a lead.
They were fantastic because they'd been doing this for 11 months at this time, more like a year. In February 2005, they had to go through all the soggy, sticky, smelly stuff for the umpteenth time, and they were still conscientious about their efforts. You should consider that most of the trash had been from the Downey residence. Chi and Rebecca there'd been nothing there but phone bills and fruit peels.
But that was about to change. Sometimes trash is treasure.
So this one time in February 2005, they're going through the trash and they find these tiny little pieces of paper torn up. Each of them is like the size of a dime, and they've got some Chinese writing on them. And it's spread out throughout the trash. They've got to go through the whole thing to find and collect all these little pieces. Once we get it back, we got to dry it out. It's soaking wet, and just like an incomplete puzzle with some pieces missing, you sit down and put together what turns out to be 2 sheets of paper that have been torn up into tiny pieces.
After many laborious hours of jigsaw work, the agents hold in their hands 2 notes, both written in Chinese characters. They look like lists.
And the first one is a handwritten list, not in Chi or Rebecca's handwriting. This came from their house. It's a list 1 through 9. It's all Chinese except at the very bottom, number 9 is DDX, which was the next generation destroyer they were working on at the time.
Okay, this is something.
Same with the second piece of paper, except this one was printed, off a printer in Chinese characters, and Chi Mak doesn't have a printer like that, and obviously Power Paragon doesn't. So it obviously came from China, or from someone who's got such a device.
Jim has a team of crack linguists on hand to decipher surveillance recordings. Hidden microphones and phone taps on Chi's spy ring have produced hours of tape. Now, he adds the 2 notes to their already staggering workload.
The first list turns out to be a list of technologies, the handwritten one, a list of 9 things, 5 of which we know Chi Mak has access to. So that list was exciting, but even better was the second one, because the technologies it mentioned, Chi Mak had all of them and had all of them in his house. And even better, it gave instructions. It wasn't just a list.
This second list gave Jim's team a Rosetta Stone.
The beginning of it said, you can learn more through joining more associations and participating in some seminars or conferences with special subject matters. Information from one special conference can be compiled onto a disk, and later on it will be very valuable to do research on it. Below that instruction, the author, whoever they may be, listed technologies including space-based interceptors, launched electromagnetic interceptors, aircraft carrier systems, electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, electromagnetic gun, electromagnetic shield, torpedoes.
All in all, it's one hell of a shopping list.
And the instructions they gave Chi Mak, as we proved later, was exactly what he was doing. He was going to more conferences. He was presenting classified information in papers he gave to the conference, which they would put on a disk and give to the attendees. He would take those disks home, and then he would copy them, and then he would send them to China. So that completely changed the atmosphere surrounding our investigation. We knew what we were after, but now the authorities above us didn't have any more room to say, nah, we don't know if anything's going to come from this. Now we had a spy, not only who had collected everything he needed and that we knew was going over there, but now we had his instructions and how to complete his mission.
Now that Jim knew the Chinese spy's MO, he just needed to catch him in the act. Luckily, Chi and Rebecca, while notoriously penny-pinching in their day-to-day lives, were fond of the odd vacation. One such trip, to Hawaii, gave the FBI a perfect opportunity to up their game.
While they were in Hawaii, on the very last night, finally I was able to get covert CCTV put into their home. And it was over their computer desk, in the computer room, and over their small dining room table. We're listening to them, and now we're watching them. And about a week and a half later, we see on a Sunday, our lookout people are watching the cameras inside the house, and they call me and say, hey, we've got Rebecca and Chi sitting down at the dining room table with a laptop, and Chi is copying CDs and apparently making new CDs. Very alerting, very alarming, because now, of course, we've got those trash lists that tell him to do this very thing. So I call for a meeting on Monday morning, all hands on deck.
The team's first priority is to understand exactly what it is that Chi and Rebecca are discussing as they make their copied CDs. To progress, they need to know that this behavior is really as suspicious as it looks. Unfortunately for them, Chi and Rebecca speak 3 Chinese languages: Mandarin, Cantonese, and Shanghainese, and switch between them at will. So the FBI linguists have their work cut out for them.
Unfortunately, we've had so many translation challenges that we're about 2 weeks behind our translations. So the linguists are there, and the linguists were great. And I said, what I want you to do is concentrate on Sunday, give me a summary translation of what's happening on Sunday. And they quickly got me summaries by that night, by Monday night. How should I say it? It made the hairs on my arms and legs stand up straight.
This case had come so close to dying on the vine. Now, Chi Mak was ripe for the plucking.
And now we've got a translation of the microphone take. And what's happening is Chi and Rebecca, as they're copying the discs, are talking about, oh, remember the last trip, remembering very fondly the last trip that they themselves took, carrying information.
In the last episode of True Spies, we heard how, at the start of this investigation, Chi and Rebecca were out of the country, supposedly visiting Taiwan. Jim hadn't bought that for a second. And now, his suspicions were proven correct. The Maks had been making trips back to the People's Republic of China after all, traveling in from second locations in order to keep their passports clean.
Now they start talking about the discs they're making. They're making discs that contain quiet electric drive, information about carriers and from conferences, about the Naval Academy. And they talk about how they're going to give this to Ty, he'll encrypt the disks, and then he'll deliver them to Pooh.
Pooh. Or, to give him his full address, Pooh Pei Lang, the intended recipient of a quote from Chi's brother, Ty, for audio-visual equipment, discovered in a cover of Ty's trash the year before. Ty's day job, when he wasn't couriering information to the PRC, was as head of audio at a Chinese-affiliated TV station in California. So when the FBI first found that scrap of paper, it had been understood as evidence of nothing more than a side hustle, importing and exporting the tools of his trade. But now they knew its true meaning. Ty acted as a courier, taking the classified information Chi gathered from his employer to China. Pooh was his handler, as well as Chi and Rebecca's. The quote, for $17,000, wasn't for AV gear. It was for services rendered.
After they have that discussion, they package the discs and they deliver them to Ty up in Alhambra.
They deliver the secret material personally, so that there's no risk of interception. Smart. But like most of their activity in the past year, it falls under the watchful eye of FBI surveillance units.
So we know the passage had been made. Very next day, Ty calls Pooh, who we had heard on the phone as Uncle Pooh, assuming he was a relative. But now he calls him Chief Pooh, and he uses all this coded language. I'm with Red Flower of North America. I'm going to the trade show. I'm bringing my assistant. And then Pooh says, great.
Further translation efforts pierced Ty's veil of doublespeak. Jim discovered that he and his wife, Phuc, were intending to travel to China the following Friday, carrying the encrypted CDs. The encryption itself would be done on an IBM laptop, provided by Mr. Pooh. Surveillance on Ty's address at this crucial juncture also revealed another player, Ty's college student son, Billy.
Then Tuesday, Billy calls Ty from home. Billy's at home, and he said, hey, Dad, I need that diskette for your work. Where is it? And Ty says, go to my nightstand. It's right there. And what he's referring to is it's an encryption key on a diskette that needs to be put into the laptop from Pooh before any encryption can be done.
It was Billy who would be driving his parents, Ty and Phuc, to the airport that Friday, bound for mainland China, possibly with the US Navy's best-kept secrets in tow. Cooler days call for layers that last, and Quince is my go-to for quality essentials that feel cozy, look refined, and won't blow your budget. Fall is here, and with it, that familiar question. What on earth did I wear last year? If you're keen to give your wardrobe a refresher without spending a fortune, Quince is the answer. Quince offers luxurious pieces at prices that feel almost too good to be true. From Mongolian cashmere jumpers to Italian leather jackets, their pieces are warm, comfortable, and beautifully made. I've just added one of Quince's cashmere jumpers to my wardrobe, and I honestly couldn't be more delighted. It's beautifully soft, lightweight yet warm, and drapes in that effortless way only proper cashmere does. Truly, it's one of those rare finds that's both luxurious and sensible. A little everyday elegance. Find your fall staples at Quince. Go to quince.com/truespies for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/truespies to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/truespies.
And I and Gunner and another NCIS case agent, Omar Lopez, who's now director of the NCIS currently, and my co-case agent, Sheldon Fong, and my supervisor, we got together and we came up with a plan.
All the agents agree that whatever happens at that airport, it can't be rushed.
A lot of mistakes can happen. We're going to have to bring in a lot of people to help with the arrests and searches who don't know anything about the case. And we've seen past cases crash with trying to rush it. We didn't want that to happen.
So they came up with a plan that would allow them to confirm exactly what was on the CDs, making sure that it was truly enough to convict Chi, Rebecca, Tai, and Phuc. It involved exploiting a key vulnerability inside the spy ring. Early on in the investigation, Phuc had been observed operating an illegal marriage business, hooking up wealthy Chinese citizens with willing American spouses for immigration purposes.
Because of all Phuc's criminal activities, and we could prove it all, we recovered all these contracts from her trash with these people for these fake marriages. What we decided to do is, under cover of using immigration violations, we would have them arrested, Tai and Phuc, at the airport for that, and seize everything. We'd seize whatever discs they had, have a chance to look at them and figure out what was on it, because we only had Chi and Rebecca's word what was on it. We couldn't prove it was super sensitive, and we wanted to have an open, shut, airtight case.
Seizing the CDs would also give them a chance to corrupt the data, making sure that it would never find its way to China intact.
So, to us, that was a perfect plan.
Unfortunately for Jim, the US Navy had other ideas. They wanted the arrests made now.
If I didn't do it the way they in the Navy said, they'd take the case away. And I knew that was a recipe for disaster. Too many cases against the spies for China had been lost because headquarters stepped in and did something stupid. So we went forward with it. We rushed it up to the last second. It could have gone sideways.
By Thursday night, Jim and a legal team from the local branch of the United States Attorney's Office had done their paperwork.
I was assigned Greg Staples, who had never done any counterintelligence prosecutions or even terrorism, but he ended up being a fantastic attorney for the case. Greg, I, and another one, Deirdre, another attorney sat down, and we wrote up the affidavit.
The stage was set.
We knew what the charges were going to be. Make it simple. Since we were rushing it, we could always add more charges. We're going to charge them as being agents of a foreign power. We could show the tasking list, show he'd collected it, and show that he'd tried to send it to China. Open and shut. Easy. And then we'll add even more serious charges.
But in counterintelligence, things are rarely simple and never easy.
Friday morning, I go to collect the affidavit and the search warrants to take before the judge to swear and then have him sign. And Greg and Deirdre are looking pretty nervous and distressed.
The lawyers explain that other legal teams from the Department of Justice and the Attorney's Office don't like the look of Jim's rap sheet. They want to bring different charges.
So they're debating all day about what to charge. Every hour we get a different charge.
Time is ticking away. Tai and Phuc fly late that night, but at this rate, the FBI might miss them entirely. At 4 p.m., finally, a charge is agreed. But by now, the judge who needs to sign it all off has gone home, a 3-hour drive away, and Jim desperately needs his signature.
I have to go to his house, which is in the northernmost part of Thousand Oaks. And I'm racing. I'm going up shoulders, the middle median. I'm actually hoping CHP will pull me over so I can explain the situation and they can escort me. But there's never a cop there when you need one. And I'm just racing and stuck in traffic. And I get up there all sweaty, angry. I've been cursing the attorneys the whole way up there. Why they had to make something so easy so hard. And panicked.
As Jim battles the gridlocked traffic, the surveillance teams are watching Billy drive Tai and Phuc to the airport.
We want to wait till they go through security first and then arrest them. And we want to definitely arrest them before they get on that plane. And yet, I have no signed orders to do such. So they're panicked, calling. I'm calling them back.
Eventually, a hot and flustered Special Agent Gaylord arrives at the judge's house. He presents him with the much-debated affidavit.
He's reading it. He's asking questions as he's supposed to, and clarification on this and that. I'm swearing to it. I'm still getting the panic calls on my walkie-talkie. And as he starts to sign, he chuckles and he said, "This sounds pretty dire." And I said, "Yeah, we've got less than an hour to arrest these people before they're going to take off." And he said, "Okay, you just tell everyone on the radio that as of now, everything is signed. They can proceed." And there was a collective sigh of relief across Southern California.
Teams from the FBI and NCIS are already in position at LAX. And while Jim's been on his unwelcome road trip, his surveillance specialists have noticed something highly unusual.
Well, while we were watching Fook and Tai check in their luggage, their one carry-on luggage is all they were taking to China, no check-on luggage. While they were doing that, we noticed this guy identified as an unidentified Asian male. He was standing on the sidewalk outside of LAX, but filming them, Tai and Fook, through the window. Every time Tai would look around, this Asian male would turn his camera to the side, and then he'd turn it back when Tai would look away. Well, this guy ends up getting in line, security line, right behind Fook and Tai. And Fook looks around like everyone would, and their eyes meet, and they look away. There's no sign of recognition between the two of them.
The FBI's curiosity is piqued. They keep an eye on the mysterious stranger as he, Tai, and Fook pass through security. This is their moment. Passing through security is incontrovertible proof of the couple's intent to board their plane and carry out their mission. Calmly, FBI agents approach Tai and Fook. This is a pivotal moment, but it happens with a whisper, not a bang.
They're arrested very, very low-key. They walk off quickly and quietly with our agents.
The majority of travelers passing through LAX that day barely registered what had happened. But that unknown Asian male, the watcher, seemed distressed.
He stops just feet away, sits down and watches as they're processing and handcuffing, taking away Fook and Tai. It turns out he's got 5 different phones on him, and on these phones he's texting and calling somebody. Then he goes to a different terminal. Now, he is supposed to be on the same flight as Tai and Fook. He has tickets for them, but he doesn't go anywhere near the gate. Sits down, looks around nervously, and keeps up with the texting and the phone calls.
Eventually, when the man goes to the bathroom, an FBI agent in charge follows him in. The stranger identifies himself as Luo Zhishong. He's detained, and a search of his person reveals much of interest.
He's got a PDA with him, some other items, his video camera that he was using, etc. When we later looked on the film that he'd made of Fook and Tai at the airport, we also found that he had filmed delegations, Chinese delegations visiting Harvard, MIT, and the University of Minnesota.
All this and an interesting bit of paperwork. A contract, to be specific.
Turns out that Mr. Luo was brought in the United States through Fook's marriage fraud business. They knew each other quite well. He'd already paid some money. They'd actually, on the phone, we heard them arguing about how much he was being charged. But she's the one who brought him in. So the idea that they looked at each other and pretended they didn't know each other is, of course, suspicious in and of itself.
So, Fook's illegal marriage business does come into play after all. And as the FBI learn more about their new detainee, the immigration scheme gains a new, clandestine dimension. Because further questioning reveals that Mr. Luo works at a university in China for an organization known as the Center for Asian Pacific Studies,
which we later identified as an organization that collects surreptitiously for both the Ministry of State Security and 2PLA, which is the military unit focused on the United States.
Mr. Luo, it seemed, was a surveillance specialist for Chinese intelligence. And, through Fook's machinations, he might have been able to live and work inside the United States. But that dream was over. Mr. Luo had watched it fall apart before his very eyes as Tai and Fook were led away.
We believe that he was looking for signs of compromise. He was looking for our guys. Our guys found him first. And either he wanted to see if we were watching them, they didn't know it, or maybe we'd turned them and they were cooperating with us. And, if we'd helped them around security or what have you, then he'd see that. But in any case, we defeated that purpose by spotting him first.
The attorney's office didn't give Jim's team permission to formally arrest Mr. Luo, but his belongings were seized.
We kept the stuff, we released him, and he got on that flight to China and he's never come back. And if he ever did, he would have been arrested. And we recovered a phone book of his that had hundreds of contacts with people in China, which was great, which is something we released later to our partner intelligence agencies here.
Meanwhile, Tai and Fook were taken away for questioning.
So we made the arrest. They walked off pretty easily. And when we searched their belongings, both the one bag they checked and on them, we found a disc a disk that looked blank, and it was just labeled 10/25/05 by Billy. That's the day that he had encrypted and loaded all that information on the disk. He took Chi's 3 disks and compressed them and encrypted them onto this one disk. Later on, we were able to show that it was in fact 3 conference disks that Chi had given them from all naval technologies on those 3 disks.
Finally, proof. Proof of collection, proof of transit, and proof that the FBI's diligence, even in the face of interagency squabbling, had paid off. Minutes later, Chi and Rebecca were arrested at their home in Downey and taken to the FBI's Los Angeles HQ. The FBI mounted another search of their property, and this time, they didn't have to be quiet about it.
So besides all the restricted documents we had found, we were able to go into, for instance, the spider web encased filing cabinet.
During their first covert searches of the property, this cabinet had been off limits. The Maks didn't exactly keep the place spick and span, and a thick layer of webs across this mysterious filing cabinet, if disturbed, might have tipped the Maks off to the FBI's presence. As it turned out, those spiders had been doing the Chinese spies a huge favor.
We found all sorts of travel records, and we could show that even though their U.S. passports didn't show any travel to China, we found all sorts of documents in there that showed they had traveled to China. We also found more documents, white papers, where he'd inserted classified information on. Other was export controlled information or Department of Defense sensitive information. Some of it was proprietary information that we could have charged trade secret violations for.
And believe it or not, that's not all.
We also found what we called a go bag in Chi Mak's house. In it were travel documents, visas, passports, and money, including 600 crisp US dollars.
And nestled in that bag, perhaps for sentimental reasons, a memento from a past life.
We found a small little book, a calendar book that she had used between 1968 and 1973 to track all U.S. Navy ships going in and out of the port in Hong Kong when she was there. It would list the ship name, name of any officers that he had met.
Yes, Chi Mak had been in the spy game for a long, long time.
Now, this is during the Vietnam War, when we were at war with North Vietnam, an ally of Communist China. The location of our aircraft carriers and submarines especially would be very useful to the enemy, and that's what China would be providing in North Vietnam.
Jim's career in the FBI had begun with, and largely focused on, the Vietnamese community in Southern California. Many of these people he had come to know, had fled the communist regime in Vietnam and remained targets of its intelligence agencies. So this discovery must have felt like an extra vindication of his tireless efforts to bring down Chi. An enemy now, and an enemy then.
Ford was built on the belief that the world doesn't get to decide what you're capable of. You do. So ask yourself, can you or can't you? Can you load up a Ford F-150 and build your dream with sweat and steel? Can you chase thrills and conquer curves in a Mustang? Can you take a Bronco to where the map ends and adventure begins? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Ready, set, Ford.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
As boxes full of evidence were being marched, ant-like, out of the Mak's drab home in Downey, more agents were rifling through Ty and Fook's home in Fremont.
We found the laptop that Pooh had given them for encryption. And we found the disc right in the bedside drawer, just like Ty had earlier instructed his Billy to look. And we also saw that Billy had taken steps on the computer to change the name to hide the true function of this encryption program, to make it look like a driver's file instead. In the desk drawer, we found the encryption keys. We also found photographs with Ty's name and the date 1971 and the province taken in China of him as a propaganda officer.
This search also brought up a list of code words, many of which Jim recognized from hours of recorded phone calls. Now, the FBI had the foundations of a very solid case. Even so, an actual conviction felt a long way off. The next step was to pump the spy ring for information, and hopefully, to persuade them to incriminate themselves.
So that night we had a lot of interviews set. We interviewed Ty and Fook at the airport.
By the time Chi and Rebecca were arrested and brought in for questioning, Jim was still on the road back from the judge's house in Thousand Oaks, monitoring the events that unfolded over his radio. In his absence, Gunnar Newquist, NCIS, puts Chi Mak in the hot seat at the FBI's LA office.
He spoke with him about 20 minutes. Gunnar Newquist is a great interviewer, and he charmed Chi, flattered him, talked to him until I could get there. Chi waived his rights. He wanted to talk his way out of this. Chi has a huge ego and always thinks she's the smartest guy in the room, and of course we use that, and Gunnar used that.
When Jim arrived at FBI LA, he and Gunnar started probing Chi. A confession was not forthcoming.
He lied like nobody I've ever seen, unashamedly. And I think he could sense it was obvious we knew he was lying, but he stuck to his guns. So, for instance, when he asked about why he sent the disc with Ty, he said, I wanted him to buy some books in Hong Kong about Quiet Electric Drive. There were no books in the public about Quiet Electric Drive back then. He knew that. Besides that, his brother Ty had never gotten past junior high. He wouldn't know what he was reading or, what to look for or what to buy. So that made no sense. And she denied it was for any other purpose, and he stuck to that lie.
The rest of the spy ring followed Chi's example.
All of the people we arrested and interviewed all lied about everything.
And that would be their undoing.
But one lie they all told was the same lie, which helps us prove conspiracy. When we asked what was the purpose of Ty carrying discs, they all said, it's music. Ty likes to listen to music on that long flight to China. Well, the problem is Ty didn't take the disc with him. He checked it. He wouldn't have had it with him. And number two, he didn't bring a player with him. There's no way he could have played that music he claimed that was on the disc. But everyone told that same lie. Chi told it. He said that there's music on that disc. Rebecca told it. Ty told it. Billy told it. Fook told it. Everybody did. So that's a conspiracy right there. They all had practiced what to say if they were ever caught.
Eventually, as the interview rolled into the wee hours of Saturday morning, Jim and Gunnar received word from on high. They needed to wrap things up.
The attorneys again said, anything he says now, old man, 3 hours, won't be admissible. Well, that was wrong. He was more fresh than we were. We were feeding him tea, plenty of bathroom breaks. He was eager to convince us that he wasn't guilty. But we ended it.
That night's conversation ended on what could have been, were it not for Chi's astounding confidence in his ability to mislead, a coup de grace.
We ended on the note that we read him the tasking list in the trash. He lied about all that, about tasking lists existing or having any relevance to anything. It was ridiculous. Next day, we went in, checked in with him in jail. Hey, you're going to tell us the truth or you're going to keep lying? He tried to lie again, so we canceled it after 10 minutes and left. One of the keys is we didn't want to get him angry at us by haranguing him too much, so we closed it, again, with him wanting to talk to us more. To be honest, I'd pretty much given up on getting him to tell the truth. But Gunnar and Omar Lopez, both NCIS, wanted to make another try at it.
Clearly, a new strategy was needed. A plan to use Chi's sense of superiority against him.
So we came back the next day, Sunday, and they organized a plan where Gunnar was going to go in as the old kind of slow NCIS agent who didn't understand all this highfalutin technology, and Omar was the younger, hipper guy who got it and understands Chi's point of view.
The combination of sympathetic Omar and slow on the uptake Gunnar needed one more ingredient. A villain to unite against.
They had convinced him that, if they're going to sell his story to us, the big bad FBI, I was present as the bad guy, which is great. He was going to have to admit to some basic, obvious truths if we were going to believe the rest of his story.
It worked like a charm.
So he ended up admitting just about everything except that what he sent was classified.
Chi even acknowledged that the only reason he was refusing to admit that was because it would be a slam dunk of an espionage charge, an offence which carries a heavy penalty.
But he admitted sending all the technologies we knew he sent to China via Thai, and sometimes taking it himself, giving it to Pu. He identified Pu as intelligence officer for the services there. He also, not knowing yet, we had these photographs from Thai's house. He also identified Thai as a former propaganda officer for the intelligence services there. So he admitted all these things. He said how he got the lists. He admitted that Billy would go over every summer to China. When Billy was there visiting, he would meet with Pu, intelligence officer. Pu gave him the 2 tasking lists inside of what she called a health book, and gave it to Billy to take back to Uncle Chi.
Looking back over the reams of surveillance notes, Chi's admissions cast certain exchanges in a new light.
The surveillance reported when they all met at a big family dinner, Billy gave a package to Chi, and then weeks later, Chi called Thai, referring to the package, laughing about it, saying, "Yeah, what I saw in there, nothing new, ha ha ha." So we had verification of Chi's story in his admission to Gunner and Omar. So once we've collected all this information, it's time to go criminal with it.
So began another protracted period of legal wrangling over exactly what to charge Chi Mak and his associates with. We won't go into it here, but it's worth exploring in Jim's book, Chasing Chi.
But eventually, after years of fighting, we got pretty much most of the charges we wanted, except for espionage. So we ended up with charges against Chi, Thai, Fook, Rebecca, and Billy for being agents of foreign government, for making false statements to us, for committing ITAR, which is basically export control violation, sending restricted information to China that they shouldn't have. And we wanted to try them all at once, but the judge decided, no, there's so much against Chi Mak, the other defendants would suffer from it. So we went to trial against Chi first. All 5 charges against him. It was a six-week trial. It took about 2 days of deliberations for them to come to the verdict. He's guilty on all counts.
Chi Mak was convicted to 24 years in jail. The rest of the ring, Thai, Fook, Rebecca, and Billy, got off lightly in comparison.
There was a big dust-up with the United States Attorney's Office because they forced plea bargains with the other 4 at a much lower sentencing than they should have gotten.
But it wasn't all roses. The foursome had been loyal to the Chinese government, but that loyalty wasn't reciprocated with much enthusiasm at all.
ICE held these people for years more because China, ironically, wouldn't issue a visa for their people to come back. They dragged their feet, so these people spent a lot more time in jail than even the court had agreed to, and we ended up deporting everybody.
Chi himself was already an old man at the time of his sentencing. He died in prison in 2022. But he did leave a legacy of sorts. Jim Gaylord believes the Chi Mak case represented a watershed in how Chinese espionage cases were pursued in the USA, an area of counterintelligence that had, for decades, been a litany of failures.
We had one success in 1986, and before and after that had been all failures. So that's why a lot of pressure on me and the squad, because there had been so many failures before, even the year before in Los Angeles, against Katrina Leung and J.J. Smith, a traitorous FBI agent. So this was a huge success, and it actually set the bar and the standard. And after that, we had a series of following cases around the country that were successful. And the very first one was also by our squad. It was a spin-off of Chi Mak. It was the Greg Chung case.
Over the course of the long deliberation over Chi Mak's fate, new nodes in his web of intrigue had revealed themselves. But that's a story for another time. And you can hear it on the members' edition of the True Spies Debrief, available to SPYSCAPE Plus subscribers. Subscribe now at plus.spyscape.com. This story, however, is at an end. But join us next time for another secret liaison with True Spies. Disclaimer. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the subject. These stories are told from their perspective, and their authenticity should be assessed on a case-by-case basis. If you're enjoying this podcast, please click now to give it a 5-star rating or leave a review. Ratings and reviews help people discover the podcast and help us bring you more great stories. And if you have some time, why not forward the podcast to a friend?